information. And of course, we're also going to have some time for introductions as well for everybody. So if you haven't, please do take a moment to sign in. That is how our record of who is here with us. And I'm going to ask that one of our DTL folks keeps putting that sign-in link in just in case anyone else joins, because I know in Microsoft Teams you have to, if you join the meeting late, you don't see the previous chats. All right. So just a quick note about our schedule for the week. We do have today, of course, we're talking about Schoolnet. Tomorrow we have our Power School and Learning.com sessions. And on Thursday we have Canvas, and then on Friday it's Go Open and See. All of them will be using Microsoft Teams. And you can just click on the link at the time. And we are recording all the sessions, and we will have them published. Hopefully by Monday, we'll have them on our YouTube channel. We do know that, we do have meetups through Friday. So we'll get those posted and sent out as recordings as quickly as possible. Just a note about our schedule of home-based meetups for the year. You will notice that they all are virtual at this point in time. That is what we've been instructed based on the conditions of the pandemic. It is possible that if things improve, that we might could go back out on the road for some of the later meetups, and we're hoping that's the case, because I know I love going out and going across the state and getting to interact with you all face to face. But for right now, we know at least virtual is a safe bet, and hopefully things will improve. We did want to point out the Lighting Our Way Forward guidance. We know that you all have probably all been feverishly looking at these documents, but we did want to point that out. There actually was an update to these on Friday. So if you haven't looked at them since Friday, I would consider opening them up. There's some updated guidance from DHHS. So just be thinking about that and knowing that these documents are here for you to reference as we go through the process of reopening schools. Also wanted to point out our digital teaching and learning page. We had the new website that updated last year, and so just want to point out that you can always find more information about DTL on our website. And we also still have the remote learning resources page that we continue to update. I see John's on here. Thank you, John. John's kind of our default webmaster for that page. So John continues to update as we get new resources and plans and things updated. So just keep in mind that resources page is there. And then, of course, about home base and the products that we have. There's actually 7 key components, because we have Go Open and See up here too. So feel free to visit each one of the product areas sites to kind of learn more and get more information. And lastly, just a couple of notes about the contacts. We do know that, the beginning of a new year, you might have some transition with contacts. So if that is the case, you can look on this interactive map that we have on our page. And if you click on your county, you'll see the PSU contacts. And then there's also a separate list for charter schools as well to look for their contacts. If you notice that there's any changes that need to be made, you can send an email to Yolanda Wilson on our team, and she does a great job of updating this. The other thing is that ServiceNow, which is our ticketing platform for support for Schoolnet to get tickets to Lisa to investigate, has a new link. So this just happened this weekend, so like breaking news. There is a redirect on the old link for the next 30 days, but you're going to want to update the ServiceNow link in your browsers to make sure you have the new link for our ServiceNow platform. All right, so just a review of who's who on our team. We have, of course, Rob was just joining us for a minute. He's our home-based manager. I am the digital learning systems consultant, which means I manage Go Open and See, Canvas, Schoolnet, and Imagine Math. And then we have Justin Connor, who's our Power School business manager. Cammy's on the phone with us, and she manages Nisus and Learning.com. And then we have our professional learning team, John and Tessa, on the call with us as well. And Yolanda Wilson and Audrey Long are also two of our home-based team members, and they provide a lot of great support. All right, so our agenda for today, we're going to be talking about some CTE and item updates. We're going to be talking about the student profile and hopefully some good, exciting changes. We're going to talk about how you can batch print those student profiles, some new things for back to school, and also talking about instructional materials. If at any point in time you have a question or something that you would like to discuss as the group, this is your time. Please put it in the chat, and we will, we'll keep note of it and bring it up for discussion as the next item. Or if you want to unmute yourself and jump in, you're more than happy and welcome to do that as well. Let's just take a minute to do some introductions. I think we have most people on the call right now that are going to be with us. So if anyone would like to unmute and jump in with an introduction, that would be great. I'll give a moment. You can also type an introduction in the chat as well. If you want to just say hi in the chat, that's welcome too.
I'm Lisa Thompson. I'm with Union County Public Schools. I'm the EdTech Professional Development Coordinator, and I've already been in Schoolnet. I got burned this summer because we were going to do some credit for demonstrated mastery over there, and then the kid went to take the test, and it was like they're not enrolled in school, and I'm like, oh no, I forgot. So yeah, I had to put it in Canvas, but anyway, I'm excited to get back started.
Thank you, Lisa, for joining us.
My name is Ryan Revak of Charlotte-Mecklenburg County Schools and a data specialist for the Office of Accountability, but I have been communicating a lot with Pam and with Lisa actually around, we are putting a lot of stuff in Schoolnet this year and excited to see this play out. So happy to be here.
Thank you, Ryan. All right, I'm going to run down our chat. So we have Lori with us from Sampson County Schools, Angela Jackson from Piedmont Classical High School, Susan from Henderson County Public Schools, Marilyn's with us from Duplin County Schools, Kevin Roberts is with us from Edgecombe, Mary is joining us from Rockingham County, Leah is joining us from Granville County, Lindsay Skidmore from Duplin County Schools, Darlene from Burke, Julie Simpson from Washington County Schools, Kim Nash from Cumberland County Schools. So thank you all. We welcome. Is there anybody on the call that is this is their first meetup? Go ahead and throw Ryan under the bus because I know this is his first meetup, but is there anybody else on the call that this is your first home-based meetup?
My name is Jan Houston from Duplin County Schools, and this is my first meetup.
Oh, thank you. Welcome. All right, we'll give one more moment. I am going to put the sign-in link back in chat. Just one last reminder, If you wouldn't mind, please, if you haven't filled out the little Google form to sign in today, please do that. All right, so Catherine or Joan?
Hi, good morning, everyone. This is Catherine Simone. I am with Pearson, the implementation manager for North Carolina. And I'm going to start us off today with some content updates. Am I able to advance the slide, or you're doing it, Pam? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You got it. Okay, great. So we had substantial changes this year with the CTE standards. So if your districts are utilizing these, just wanted to put this slide in there so you would be aware that there are 3 new program areas. Previously, we had business, finance, and marketing education was a separate program area. They have now been combined, and the courses associated have been reorganized. Also, computer science and information technology education is brand new. That did pull the IT courses that were previously housed with the trade technology, and I think it was information technology education prior. So now the computer science and information technology has been separated from the trade technology standards, and those are the 3 new program areas. The others remain in effect. The courses were just moved around. We didn't really have too many new ones. We didn't have new ones under each program area, just a reiteration of the standards. Next slide, Pam. I keep going for my mouse, sorry, like I could do something with it. These are just the item counts, just to let you know the agricultural items that have been added were all supplemental. So they were added in addition to the already existing items. The trade and technology engineering items were replacement items, as were the health science and the business marketing BA10. Okay. I don't think we had spoken to all of you after the benchmark and classroom items, the supplemental items were added. These were added on May 29th. I did see that Pam had sent out a notice to all of you. So if you are searching the benchmark item bank, you can search by the date of 5/29 or the classroom item date, and these are the item counts for the individual subject areas in each bank.
And that's great to point out that these are new benchmark items that are available, because I know with the with the pandemic, folks are kind of considering using benchmarks in Schoolnet and planning. So you now have these new items available to you. So that's a nice thing to know as you start to plan for the beginning of the year, to know you have more items available to you, because those are the protected benchmark banks that teachers can't access.
So I'm really excited about this project of content. We had a couple meetings, and I want to send out a big shout out to Lisa, who really helped me get all this together. So we were able to import the math set items. We imported them and into a bank. So you will see, if you see the bottom screenshot there, it says, and the bank is titled NCDPI Math Sets Bank. There are 343 items. The grades range from 3rd through Math 1. But in addition to putting the items in a bank, we actually took the items by domain and put them back into mini formative assessments for you. So you will have both the access to the bank to create your own, pull 1 or 2 at a time, or can you just show the next slide, Pam? Because I put a little screenshot of the names of the, or you can see these would be the names of the formative assessments. I just pulled a 3rd grade sample, but there's essentially they're all named NCDPI, math sets, then the domain name, formative assessment, and then the grade level. And as I said, you'll see them from grade 3 to Math 1. There are 34 assessments in all. They range in item counts from as little as 5 in some of the younger grades for that domain to as many as 12 to 14 items on an assessment. So those will also be the math. The bank is available now. We are working on pushing out the tests to the districts currently, but they will be available by the start of school. And then the other piece of content that we have is also, do these have read aloud configured? I believe so, but I will double check on that and let you know, Lindsay. So text to speech on math assessments. No problem. Okay. The next items that we added were release items. Sorry, next slide, Pam. Thanks.
Oh, can I jump in?
Yeah, sure, your turn.
So when we met with the testing and accountability folks, and they talked about the math sets, they were really emphatic about the point of the math sets being kind of these formative assessments that teachers can use. And so we wanted to, Lisa and Catherine, thank you so much for your work in putting those tests together, because we wanted them for teachers to already be made. So that way teachers can just simply take the test that's going to be recommended to them and schedule it with the scheduling settings that they have. So for Mary's question, yes, the math sets will be available to everyone. And so I know Lisa and Catherine are still in the process of making those the tests available to everybody, but they will be, and we're really excited about that because that's going to hopefully simplify for teachers that they already have some tests made for them for math. We will not be getting the other passport to learning items in Schoolnet. So just an FYI, I know that's a request that we've had. There's passport to learning for reading. Those items will still continue to be available on NC Test, but we do have the math sets. And so we're really looking for data. We've scheduled them at the state level. And so if we can get data to show that these items are being used, then I think that'll give us more leverage in asking for those passport to learning items, because I would love to see all of them live in Schoolnet, and I think we could eventually. We just need to show that there's a use case for them. So I'm hoping to get your enthusiasm about these items being available to everyone, and then also for the tests that are already set up by domain to be available to everyone. And that is how testing and accountability requested that we make the tests by domain. So that is why they're there in that order. So, all right, I'll go ahead and go on to the next slide now. Sorry.
Okay. No. It's fine. So in addition to the assessments, the math set assessments, we took the release items, part of the same conversation that Pam was referring to that we had and we put together the release item assessments. These are by grade level, but they are not by domain. We pulled all the release items at a particular grade level. So you can see the list here of the release item assessments that are available. There are 3 science assessments at 5th, 8th, and biology. And we have release assessments for 3rd to 8th, Math 1, and Math 3. The only reason there's not a Math 2 is because we don't have any Math 2 release items available. So.
And again, we just know that at the beginning of the year, one of the biggest questions is going to be, identifying learning gaps from students that may, have been out of school for a few months now and had a longer summer break than normal. So, we wanted to make these available. So maybe if I was, a 4th grade teacher, I would give my students that 3rd grade release test just to see, what gaps there are and how they would do, since I don't have any of that summative data from last year to go on. So just trying to make things helpful. Let us know if you think these are good things or not. You can put in the chat, you can unmute. We're hoping that you guys are excited about these, but we want to make sure you are.
Joan?
Hey, good morning, everyone. This is Joan Cooney, Program Manager for Schoolnet here in North Carolina, and welcome to those of you that are just getting started with Schoolnet and participating today. Another offering that we're going to be adding as far as content areas is something that we're calling testlets, and they'll be available for grades 3 through 8, ELA, reading and writing, as well as math. And they're actually intended for teacher use. They're being designed to kind of help identify gaps as a result of COVID, as well as kind of some summer slide. This is something that is going to be built off the Certica item bank, which you all already have access to. They are all multiple choice questions in these testlets. Some design components here. The ELA and the math are designed differently, and there's brochure here as well as the design summary for each of those subject areas. But just the highlights, there are 3 reading and writing testing testlets built, and they're covering reading, language, and writing skills, plus literary and informational text. And the BOY is actually going to test on previous year standards, and it offers 3 levels of complexity, so low, medium, and high complexity. There's also mid-year testlets that they're going to be on grade level, and they offer 2 levels of complexity. And then there's a 3rd set that provides 2 levels of complexity for the end of the year. And then there's a final writing testlet that teaches data on skills achieved throughout the year. The math has a little bit different construct. They're covering all of the standards, and I should note these will all be aligned to North Carolina standards. There is 3 levels of complexity built into the testlets so that you can see how your students are performing. Again, there is the beginning of the year, which will help test on previous grade subject matter so that you can see if there are any gaps with your students and that may need to be addressed. We're planning on having all of these loaded in by August 15th. We may be earlier. I know the math is finishing up this week and going through final reviews. And I should talk about that for you. There is 3 levels of reviews on these testlets. The content specialists are building them. The same set of content specialists are reviewing each other's testlets. And then there's an organization within Pearson that's also doing a final review just as far as content and relevance, also on the standards and making sure that they are good and valid based on the complexity level, and just a total review and recommendation. They're checking everything from images, formulas, readability, and complexity. They're on the passages in the ELA. They're really double testing the Lexile levels that are being tested at. So I think it's going to be a pretty thorough and comprehensive set assessments. I'll work with Pam as far as the communication on how you can access those. Our hope is that we'll just be able to directly recommend these to teachers, and they can pick them up relevant to the courses that they teach, and grade level 2, of course. But it may end up being that we'll recommend them to the districts, and the districts could thereby recommend them to teachers. And that's it in a nutshell. Are there any questions? And also feel free to access those links. Pam has those stored and accessible to you all.
So I do see that Lindsay is asking if things are available to everyone. So I think, Joan, it depends on what the final way of scheduling them is, right? If you can recommend them to districts or if you can recommend them directly to teachers, right?
Right. And our hope is to be able just to have them recommended to teachers, but we will communicate that once we get it finalized. But yes, Lindsay, we'll make them available to everyone in the state.
And will the math ones be able to have the read aloud?
I don't know. I don't know about that. I'm not real confident on math read aloud, to be honest with you all. I'm not gonna.
I
don't
that,
have a lot of hope for that.
Own set of errors.
Yeah, exactly. But we'll follow up on that.
Okay. All right, so coming up next is me to talk about our student profile. So just to give a little bit of backstory for everyone that's on the call, back in May, which seems like about 5 months ago, we had a group of Schoolnet users come together. I had posted it on our Schoolnet Google form about folks who wanted to come together to work on potential changes to the student profile. So this was back in the when the guidance just came out that for the end of year, teachers were being recommended to record a list of student strengths and opportunities. And I wanted to see if the student profile in Schoolnet could be optimized to facilitate that, and maybe, you know, not in time for last year if your district was new and hadn't used Schoolnet very much, but maybe for thinking ahead for this year. And I do apologize to those folks on the call. Quite a few of them are on that Schoolnet group with EOY and the upgrade. This kind of got pushed out a little bit with some other pressing things that came from the pandemic, but definitely not forgotten about. So I do have some profile updates to share with you that are based on the recommendation of the work that we did in that meeting, and I'm opening it up to further conversation and thoughts. So first of all, I just want to show you what's in the student profile right now. So that way you can kind of refresh yourself. So this is that individual student profile when I click on a student's name in Schoolnet. And there is a tab at the top called Teacher Learning Plan and Notes. So currently on those Teacher Learning Plan and Notes, there's kind of 3 buckets of content, right? So at the top, we have a parent contact log. And then we have in that blue bucket is student strengths and opportunities for improvement. And so these top 3, the red box and the blue box, those are all open response kind of items. So if I click on add a new strength, add a new topic, I'm getting a blank text box where I can enter in content. All right, so we cannot have more than 3 of these on this page. So we are kind of limited to having 3 open response areas on the student profile. But what we can have more of is down here under strategies and concerns, kind of this 3rd bucket that's outlined in green. We can add additional organizers. So I'm going to take you now through what's currently on for each one of these buckets and what we propose. So the first thing is that the parent contact log is going to stay the same as what's proposed, right? So we're going to keep that there and keep that open box. So that way, if teachers want to record, that they had a parent conference on this date and this time, and this is what was said, and this is the outcome of it, we felt like that open text box gives them the most creativity to add those notes in there. And you can also add multiple. You can add a new text box every time you have a meeting with parents or every time you have a phone call. So we wanted to keep that in, but where we wanted to make changes were these other two areas. So in first, when we talk about student strengths, we have the current, which is add student strengths. And what we propose is that we change that to current student academic strengths and opportunities, right? So we added the word academic, and we're adding both strengths and opportunities within the academic field. Then the next slide is, instead of just having a box for opportunity, we are now dividing it up into behavioral strengths and opportunities. So instead of one box for just general strengths and one box for general opportunities, we have one box for academic strengths and opportunities, and then one box for behavioral strengths and opportunities. Thoughts and feedback about that? All right, so I'm seeing some positives. I'm also seeing Julie asked, who can see these notes? So when the notes that are in the teacher learning plan and notes section, other teachers and administrators of the student, right? So if I'm a teacher, and this is cumulative, right? So if I make a note right now about academic or behavioral strengths, next year's teachers can go back and change the year on the student profile and see the notes from the previous year. So that's great because, I used to teach middle school and high school, and sometimes we did teaming and sometimes we didn't. And so, to be able to go back in the student profile in Schoolnet and be able to see past year's comments be really helpful to get to know my students and where they are. So good question, Julie. All right, we'll go on to the next one. So it looks like I'm getting a thumbs up for these two changes. So if that's not the case, I need to speak now because I'd like to get these changes put in place before the beginning of the year starts. And so Susan, if you're a middle school teacher, you can see comments from other middle school teachers teaching the same student. Yes, I can. As long as it's part of our practice that we're going to use Schoolnet to make comments. Because I think that's where the change is that we're going to have to, change our behaviors to where we document things if we're using Schoolnet or if we're using, some, I know, there's some PBIS systems out there and other things that teachers use. So if you make a note in Schoolnet, then yes, the other teachers of that student can see that note.
And Pam, if you don't mind me just adding, anyone who has access to see that student will be able to see these notes.
Right. So any admin, instructional coaches, however you have them set up, if you have them with that role, they can see that student. So we felt like the team felt like calling it out to be academic and behavioral kind of prompts the teacher to, make a note of both, whereas just listing general strengths and general opportunities, they might address one but not the other. Okay, so So the next change, now we're moving into the third kind of bucket on the student profile, teacher learning plan and notes section, where we have organizers. And organizers are just check boxes, right? So we can't actually add any text. Like there's not an other where I can add in what I do. I just choose from a pre-populated list. So right now we have this add or remove concern strategy about applied remediation strategies. And so this is kind of, the team kind of thought this was vague. So instead of having this one, we would remove it and add 3 specific intervention area organizers for reading, writing, and math. And so here is what those would look like. And I apologize, they're not screenshots that are of the finalized, exactly what it's going to look like. But you can see the organizer with the name and then the check boxes that will be underneath it. And this is based, a lot of it's based on, I don't know if James is up here with us now, but a lot of this was based on James from Davidson County sharing some of their MTSS framework with us for based on what they track interventions for. All right, so thoughts, feedback about having these organizers for reading, writing, and math instead of that generic organizer. You would also still have the organizers for ESL strategies. We're going to leave those there, as well as behavioral strategies. So the arrows, don't worry about that. That is from the screenshot I had to take from the back end of the system because I couldn't, I made the changes in the system, but the system didn't update overnight like it was supposed to. So you won't see the arrows. You'll actually see where the arrows are. You'll just see check boxes like we have right now. All right, so it's easy to add additional organizers. It's not so easy to take them away because once we add them to the student learning plan and teacher notes section, then teachers will start using them because they'll be like, oh, this is here. Let me click on this. And then that gives us data that's tied to these organizers. So if you feel like there's an additional organizer that we need, I did math, reading, and writing. It's easy to add. It's not easy to take them away. So Lindsay, so if you have some ideas for additional checkbox items that need to be under here, feel free to let me know. We can add. That's not a problem.
Pam, just to clarify, I'm not sure if Lindsay is referring to changing the format in the system or if once we've set up the check boxes and a teacher goes in and selects
right, they select comprehension or something like that, then there's data tied to it. Right,
but they can deselect it if for any reason they made a mistake or they need to change it. That part is easy. It's just not changing the format is not as easy. That's all.
Right. Yeah. Okay. The other feedback question I thought I had was, do we need organizers for science and social studies? Because we have them up here for writing, reading, and math. Does anybody's MTSS plans cover science and social studies directly, or are we all on math, reading, and writing? All right, so if there is additional thoughts about organizers for science, social studies, or other topic areas, we can certainly consider adding them down the road. But if we can get a general consensus as if these changes are good to start for the year, and then we can, you know, move forward and see how the changes go. And I'm looking for either you to unmute or you can type in the chat that we're good to start, good to make those. Go for it. I like that. Thank you, Sherry. Right? I mean, that's all we can do. We can just try and see how it goes, and hopefully that will be more actionable by teachers. And, you know, if it better supports your needs, then you're going to be more likely to use it. You know, I'm not going to use something that doesn't, you know, fit the needs of our MTSS. All right. Thank you all for your feedback.
Okay, this is me, Pam. So we also had, part of the discussions that we had with the ILP and the learning notes tabs, we came up with questions regarding batch printing student sets. So just to preface this, to make sure everyone understands what I'm referring to, you can locate a student's profile, and in the student profile, you have the ability to basically create a PDF of all data that you select or decide to choose to include in the report, and print the information from the student profile. You can do that individually, student by student. However, there is a mechanism for batch printing student sets. I'll go through the screenshots here, and then if we need to, we can jump into the training site and I can show you interactively how it works. But the place to start for a back one slide, sorry, Pam. The place to start, these screenshots are from a teacher's view. So the teacher goes to the reporting dashboard. And then in the reporting dashboard tab, you have, normally it defaults to test results, but we are going to click student reports. And then the first tab under that is the student list. Okay. And then we are going to select the students that we would like to include in the report. And on the right-hand side where I put the red box, I'm sorry, I covered up my little export button because there was a drop down, but when you click export, you get the drop down and you see batch PDF. Once you click that, you are then taken to a new screen. And these are 3 successive screenshots. So the first one, you are confirming your student set. So you see the list of students there. This was from training, so you see they all say student. Once you have confirmed that, there's a button, a blue button, as always, on the bottom right. It takes you to the second screenshot. And this would be the same screen that you would be familiar with if you used it from an individual student's profile. This is where you can select the specific data that you would like to include in your printout or your PDF. So you have the options of overview data, which is the demographic data, their benchmark or classroom tests, any standardized test. It gives you the option for attendance, program information. Also, if you do end up using the ILP or the Learning Notes tab, you can select that information to be included. Once you've made your selections, again, there's a button, blue button on the bottom right, you click it, and it takes you to the third step, which is configuring your printout. And this is where you decide, do you want the students to be printed out in order by last name, A to Z, by school, etc. And there are several configurations there. Once you make your selections, you click Print Batch PDF. And I have to warn you, if you've ever used the PDF from the student profile, if you select all of the boxes in Screenshot 2, you would possibly end up with a report for a single child that could be 7, 8, 10, 20 pages long, depending on the number of years the student has been in the system. So the batch printing, you could end up with an extensive report, but this is an easy way. I think, again, was this James that asked us about this? I'm trying to think. I think so, yes. So this is an easy way to a larger group of students to print out. Questions on that?
And I'll jump in and add that I actually created a YouTube video on our YouTube channel about this. So there's a quick video tutorial if you need it as well.
This is Ryan. So my question would be, how much can we filter what data we're going to see?
I can take you to the. Am I able to share my screen, Pam? Or no?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
I'm sharing mine, so you can be able to share.
Meaning, do we have the ability just to print out any assessments, classroom assessments that were taken during first quarter, for example?
Yes. Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah, so there's on the screenshot, Ryan, that was there on slide 31, it says all tests taken between, and you can filter out to a date range. And then you can also choose what subject area, and if it's classroom tests only or all tests. Or
so these are the configurations. Maybe you can see it a little bit better than the screenshot. If I choose benchmark test data, I have the option to just get the overview of the data, which would be the proficiency score. Let me zoom in a little bit on my screen. Is that a little better?
Yeah.
Or I can go into a detailed view where it actually shows question by question. I can choose, again, this is the training site, so I'm not sure how much data is in here, but it gives you the option to select just by subject areas. I can choose date ranges. You can see here, this is defaulted to the beginning to the current year, but I can just select current year if I like. So you can limit the amount of data for the reports. And these were the pieces I did not have the screenshots of: the learning plans, the individual learning plan, enrollment, and then the programs. So this would be whatever programs that are associated. This is a single student. This was the easiest way for me to get to it, but that would be one way that you could configure the data. Does that help?
Yes, perfect. I couldn't see all of those small details in
Yeah,
the other part.
yeah, they were tiny. Okay, back to you, Pam.
All right, sorry about that. My computer froze up for a second. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, I made you switch.
No, it's okay. It's just more than my poor computer is up to at the moment. All right.
So we'll go over.
Go ahead, Joan. Sorry.
That's all right. So we'll go over some of the features and functionality that we just released in our back to school version of Schoolnet. I think you'll like a lot of them. A lot of these originated from North Carolina, by the way. So first up, you guys may remember when we first introduced the comparison report, which was done based on performance. One of the first things you folks asked for is, can we get this by standards? Well, here it is. So you go into this report just like you did before with the comparison reporting, and you'll notice at the top you've got two tabs. Performance, that's the one that you're accustomed to and have been using. And now we have the standards comparison. And, you know, again, you've got your filtering capabilities on here if you were in leadership role and you wanted to look at specific schools, specific genders, race, lunch status. I don't think we have lunch status. Well, yeah, we do have lunch status, but those are all there. You also can select your standards document. And then also the domain of the standard. You can select level 1, 2, 3, or all aligned per the test items. And you'll notice here you've got the same selections as far as your scoring, your average score, raw score, proficiency, or score groups. And you'll see this schematic, which will show you, color code the various assessments. And then, based on your selection of score type, you've got the average score. If we could go to the next slide. And then you also have a table view of this as well. And you'll notice all of your domains are over on the left for your standards. And you can go and drill down on each of those tier levels. And then you can see the breakdown on the performance as well as the roll up. And this is very similar again to the performance standard report. You've got all the filtering capabilities that you had before. Again, it's just pivoting off the standard. Any questions on the standards performance? And I got to put my chat up. Hold on just a second here. Okay, Lisa's enthusiastic. Kathy's enthusiastic. All right, good. So the next thing that we did is the ability to print open response. So many times you may want to have that printed out to do a review with students or parents. You now have this on your score page. You can export the student response for all questions and then export the student responses. It'll create a PDF. You can either do it on a single student or you can do it for all of your students. And those are the two options there. And we can go to the next slide. The other addition that we've made is teachers being able to access published reports from the reporting dashboard. So you'll notice that the tab is added there for the teachers to be able to get the published report. It'll actually contextualize for, their students and their scope. And that's just about it on that, but it does give them.
We have a question from the previous standard slide from Lindsay. I think it's the one right two back. Yes, this one. She's asking about the ELA standards report. How do you go deeper than just seeing the reading level? On this screen, Lindsay, you'll see that we have the domain 6R. When you click the arrow next to it, you can go down to the next level of the standards. And it will only show what has been aligned to the assessment.
Right.
No problem.
We can go to the next one. So we also add, this is ongoing, but item search enhancement. So when you go to your items, when you've gone to find an item and you get your item search and you get all of your filtering capabilities, we have added on the default search page, you can allow to only show items linked to multiple passages. So if you wanted to look for paired passages type of items, you could check that box and it will further filter just to show you multiple passages. We've also added a filter in number 2 up here. It is in your all filters section where you can actually search on passage title or content. I know that I've used the passage title quite a bit just to find a specific passage. The third filter is composite items. So if you had, a task and you wanted to have 2 activities associated with that task, again, you can filter in the all filters page, filter by item type. You check on the task, only show composite items with 2 activities. See, we also have the global item search bar. That's on your main search page filtering, and you'll see it up there at the top where it says text or keyword. And again, you've already seen this, but there's a drop down for all words or any words. All words, it's going to find something that matches exactly. If you're not so sure you have all the right words up there, then you may want to select any words and then it will populate any matches for those words. And we had this before, and you may have noticed it disappeared on the filter page to exclude items that have been used on tests that I've already scheduled this year. So again, an additional filter. It will exclude any items on scheduled tests, and that's the important part. If it's in draft, it's not going to eliminate those. It has to be a scheduled test. Okay, any questions on that? And Melissa, you can go and look for passages if they had mention of water conservation. I would just do my all words kind of search, and it should populate all the passages that may have water or conservation in there. If you wanted exactly water conservation, that might filter your list down a little bit more. But yes, I would utilize the search by topic for that. Okay, building an item bank test. When you go and have created a manual test, you're now going to see 2 options. If you haven't already seen this, you'll notice there's the caret at the end, generate assessment. It's going to ask you whether you want to use items from an item bank or whether you're going to author new items. If you've chosen the top, use items from the item bank, it's automatically going to go to the search page, and it will automatically open. And as you've already seen with the item banks, if you've already selected a grade and a subject, that will automatically populate into that search screen as well. And then if you chose author new items, it just goes into that edit screen with an empty test draft, and then you can start creating your own items. Okay, next one. So we had some test authoring enhancements. I think James joined, and this was one that he had asked for, unlocking a co-authored test on copy. So when you're going into your co-author folders and you just want to copy the test that's in there, it would lock it down and until it timed out. You know, you couldn't go in there and make any other edits. Now, if you're just doing a copy, it will keep the test folder unlocked or the test unlocked. We also have the ability to generate an answer key for tests containing TEIs, that's technology enhanced items. Previously, you wouldn't see that on an answer key. If there were TEIs included on the test, you will now see that. And also on the answer key, you'll see the DOK. There's a column on that answer key that designates if there's a DOK value associated with the item, it will appear on the answer sheet. If it does not have a DOK, it will not populate, obviously. The other thing, we're going to get into more detail. We've made scheduled test changes. This again was based on feedback from you folks as far as kind of the clunkiness that we had as far as scheduling and assigning a test. We're going to go into that in more detail. And then we've also done a test detail page notification. You know how we had some folks that would take a last year test and edit it and reschedule it. We now have a lot of warning messages and stop, be sure you want to do this. Would you like in a real convenient copy mechanism, which we'll go into more detail. Okay, we'll go into the next slide. Another enhancement that we made, and again, this was feedback from North Carolina, the track accommodations operation. You may recall, you may have had that link, but unless you were a teacher, you could not see the accommodations that were offered to a student for a test. This operation will now allow leaders. In North Carolina, we have added this operation to leadership roles. So you will be able to see what kind of accommodations were offered to the student for an assessment. Okay, next screen. The other thing too is on the assessment dashboard. This happens to say test dashboard for the teacher. We have added, you know, some filtering capabilities. That list can get very long and exhaustive when you go to the dashboard. So they can, you know, now do filtering on their test categories, the subject, grades, and then do a filter to shorten that list to find their test more quickly. The other thing, and I don't know if any of you had noticed this before, we actually had some contrast issues with our hotspot item types. This is where you're asking the students to identify something on an image, and there's regions, and then they have to make a selection. Usually the selection would get a lot darker, but we also noticed that there wasn't a lot of good contrast, and we have cleaned that up so that there's a very distinct contrast. Our next. And then what I mentioned earlier about, we usually had this in the beginning of the year. We would get some cases along these lines where folks were just trying to reschedule a test from the old year. And that does all kinds of bad things to reporting folks. So please encourage your users to now leverage this warning message to not schedule an existing test that's already been completed, but actually to copy that test and then schedule it. Okay, I think this is going to be an extremely welcome change in North Carolina. We've gotten rid of some of the clunkiness when you're trying to schedule a test. Let's see here. First of all, we have an administration. This doesn't look any different than what you've seen before, where you put your start and end date, score due date, test results and scoring, the very same options that you saw before. Then it's going to take you to step number 2, where you're going to do your assignment. You can apply your default assignment, or you can do a select assignment. You've got a button for each. And if we could go to the next screen, Pam, we'll get a little more elaborate on the assignment or 3. Oh, this is a same thing. You've got your online delivery options. And now let's go to the next screen as far as that assignment detail. You'll notice now we've got this nice, neat selection list for your courses that you can select. And you also have the option, if you wanted all of those courses, you could just click that selection box by the course name, and then you will add selected. And I think the next screen will then move you into, oh, I'm sorry, it didn't. But anyway, you've got that nice, neat, no double confirmation, moving things from left to right. It's all in a nice, clean screen. You've also got filtering options, department options up at the top. So I think this will be a lot more intuitive and easier to use for all of you as far as particularly that assignment area. And then I think we're getting close to the end here, but we've added some test restrictions for parents and students. A lot of times we've noticed or have been requested that they'd like to retest the same test, but they don't want to give out the answers on the first go round and have, students be able to see those. So we've got restrictions here in the category for parents and students. You can put no restrictions, hide correct answers, restrictions on the item content, and answer choices. You can do that much like we have for test restrictions for educators, where you can always restrict it before and after end date or specify a date. And you can see here, hide test completely. So this will be a lot nicer tool for teachers if they want to use the same test for retest. Do we have another one after that?
Oh, I was going to just point out the test corrections, because I know that is a frequent thing that teachers want to do test corrections. So this hide correct answers for parents and students, please help us get the word out about that, because that is something that we know is frequently asked. How can I, hide the correct answer choices so that we can do test corrections? Now it's here. So excited about that.
So the other area that we're just going to kind of do a refresh on is instructional materials. And this is a good opportunity, I think, particularly where we've got this distance learning. It is an option, and I know you may be able to do this in your LMSs, but I think if there's ever a quiz or kind of test component to a lesson, teachers have this at their disposal, and it might be warrant for you all to just revisit this. You can use the existing materials, and we do have the linkages to go open built into Schoolnet now, or you can create new materials. And the instructional material format, it's very flexible. You have various types of file formats in different areas, multiple documents, multiple videos, linkages to other websites, and then they're assignable. And they're accessible from students from their home pages, and it might be a good way to add and to manage remote learning activities. And I'll just kind of step you through an example that I threw together. If we could go to the next screen. So I just pretended like I was a teacher, and I wanted to do an instruction on bats, and so I wanted them to go watch. I have a set of instructions for them there on the description. There's also an instruction sheet that I just created as a Word document that tells them to watch a video. It tells them to take a little quiz on what they learned from the video, and then gives them a research assignment to go and research bat houses and to post their findings and research in the student portfolios, which is another area of Schoolnet that you could leverage. And if we could go to the next screen. This is just the instructional instructions for it to watch the video, to answer the questions in the test, and that gives the passcode, and then research bat houses and write a summary of what you learned in the student workspace, which you're seeing in the lower right. And if you go to the next screen, it'll show the various views from a teacher perspective or a student perspective. The teacher can go grade the quiz in the score page, or if there's open-ended responses, obviously it could be auto-scored. They can also access the student workspace. The student can access the student workspace to post their work, and then the teacher can access that workspace and add comments or grade it or do whatever they want to with it. And I think that was basically it. So just wanted to generate some ideas to assist you all with the distance learning that looks like we're going to be plagued with here for a little while longer. So
this is Ryan again, and I have a question before we move on because it's actually related to the workspaces. I've been talking with a lot of K1 and 2 teachers, and we've been addressing Schoolnet since they've never worked in it.
right.
Is there the ability to take a picture of the work that they're working on and upload it into their workspace?
Yes, there is. I've done that with our teachers. So if, for instance, a 3D project, they can upload files.
So taking a so is the student going to be taking a picture of their work? Is that the intended?
Correct. Yeah. So if we're doing most of this stuff virtually and we're asking them, for example, our district has been pushing the EL curriculum, and so we've started with just a few grade levels, but every year we're adding more grade levels. And now that we're doing virtual learning, they're going to be asking them to be doing some of the module assessments that are going to be from our EL curriculum. However, they're going to be asking them to do a paper pencil, yet we do want a housing portfolio place for this. So we're asking that our students are taking pictures of their work and uploading it into their workspace so the teacher can go ahead and just pull up their workspace and use that to grade.
Okay, yeah, and they could do that. So they're going to be using a cell phone or something like that to take a picture of their paperwork, right?
Correct. And is there a video or a training that we already have on that? That's my next question.
So let me, do you mind if I share my screen? I'm going to go into training, Ryan, and see if we can show you how that's done.
Thank you.
So let me log out and try to log in as a student. I'll be doing this on the fly here. So if I wanted to go into my student workspace, and I'm going to create a portfolio. I'm going to call this, this is my paper work pictures. Let's see. They might have to select the section that they're doing too, Ryan.
Would a teacher be able to pre-populate this, or does this have to be done on the student side?
No, they can pre-populate too. I'll show you that, but I can create my work item, and then I can add my files here. So if I had a picture, then my picture would go into here and then they could save it.
Perfect. So basically, if they're taking the picture with their camera, their phone camera, they're just sending that to their, I guess, their student email, is how would I would assume, in their Chromebook, since they're all going to have Chromebooks.
Yeah, they have to pull that image from their Chromebook, right? Or let's see.
Yeah, I would probably encourage them to take the picture with the Chromebook, because I'm assuming Chromebooks have cameras.
So it's automatically saved right then. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that could be the easiest thing to do. Just
and then they would just
stuff.
select it. Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's the navigation that I was hoping to figure out to make it as easy as possible.
Mm-hmm.
But wouldn't taking it with the Chromebook make it backwards, so then you couldn't read the writing?
Well, you mean they have to hold it up in front of the camera? That's what you're talking about?
Well, you could also have, I don't know what type of Chromebook. I know there's some that have the swivel, you know, like the camera swivels. And so that way you could use it. Or, I mean, there's a lot of different, there's also apps on your Chromebooks that I know we had when I was in the district, we had an app for our Chromebooks for the students where it would scan and it would actually like mirror it or flip it.
Okay.
So that might be something you want to look into. What apps are on the Chromebook, and if they can open the app, take their picture, and then go to school with that.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Okay.
Okay, did we cover that well enough for you, Ryan?
Yes, it was mostly the navigation and just kind of working through the technology they'll have at home to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Okay, just prepare. There might be 15 seconds or so where my computer freezes up when I try to reshare it again. So hopefully this will go smoother.
What is that behind you? It looks like a big tree.
So this is a game that I do. Well, not really a game, but I'm a big Disney nerd, and so my virtual backgrounds are always something to do with Disney. So this is the background of the Avatar land at Animal Kingdom Lodge. Because if I had my choice, I'd always be in Disney somewhere. All right, can we see my screen now?
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, that worked a little better. And now it's back to me anyway for wrap up. So Ryan, I appreciate your questions, but I do think that student workspaces is a space that we haven't really utilized very much in North Carolina, and it would be something, especially now with, you know, the blended learning that, you know, we're all going to be in thanks to the pandemic. That is something that could be utilized in a more efficient manner. So I did want to give you guys some resources for back to school. This is something that our home-based advisory panel requested, were some short like mini webinars for each product. So I've created those. So for Schoolnet, there are 3 videos. These are filmed as of like last week. So they're very current. They're on the latest version. One of them is what is Schoolnet, and kind of walks through the different areas of Schoolnet, the modules, instructional resources, assessment items, a little bit of everything. And then part 2 is really looking at creating and scheduling a test in Schoolnet. And then part 3 is looking at what happens after the test happens. So we talk about scoring a test, if you have any like open response questions, how to do that. And then we dive into the data with the pre-formatted reports. So each one of these videos is about half-hour long, between 25 and 30 minutes. There is a link for teachers to request a CU certificate for these videos, as well as a digital badge. And so there's 3 videos on Schoolnet, 3 videos on Canvas, and 2 videos on Go Open and See. So please share these as back to school resources as you're thinking about, back to school PD. I understand from talking to different folks that, if you have year-round schools in your district, you might be having teachers come back, by the end of this week versus, year-round, so you might have some extra time. So yes, Lisa, feel free to use these in your videos, your PD modules. They're also all on our YouTube channels, so you can bring the videos in there into your Canvas courses. If you're using a Canvas course for PD, it's real easy to bring in a YouTube video. So feel free to use those. And then we do have our monthly webinars that will start back in September. And we will be offering them at 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 7 p.m. That was the feedback, was that we wanted to continue to offer the face-to-face kind of live times versus the on-demand videos. So we've set those up, and you can go ahead and publish these out for teachers to start registering. We are using WebEx as our platform for the webinars. So the webinars are always an hour, and they're going to offer 0.1 CEU credit for DLC. And with WebEx, it requires an event password. So that event password is that Schoolnet 2020 for all of the webinars. And then, of course, after the webinar, we will go ahead and put them on our YouTube playlist. And so there's a link here to our YouTube playlist on this slide. I'm on slide 53. So we hope to see you there, and we hope to see your teachers, right? We hope to see them on the webinars. We're excited about that. Any other kind of resources or things that would be helpful for you as you start the year?
I have one more question. Going back to the website at the very beginning where our counties were, where are we supposed to go, or who are we supposed to contact if that information is not correct under the Power School and Schoolnet leads and backups?
So Julie, I just typed it in the chat. You need to email Yolanda Wilson with who that information needs to be, and it'll be updated. And then Lisa also helps with making sure those people have access to ServiceNow. So, in general, we have a Schoolnet lead and a backup for each district, except for Wake and CMS have a couple of extra folks because they're so large. But if that's not right, just email Yolanda, and then she'll start the process of fixing it.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, so I'd like to open it up for a few minutes to see if there are some topics or things that you guys would like to discuss. What's new for the year? What are you guys planning on doing with, blended learning? I know we've heard from CMS that they're going to be blueprinting and using a lot of their Schoolnet tests in their Canvas courses, but I'm curious to know what else is going on and how you guys can talk and support each other.
Okay, I'll go first. So I have been going back and forth with Joan on this. I'm trying to send a picture in the chat. I hope it goes. On the scheduling now, there's a box, and I didn't see it on the example that she gave, to allow educators to link the test to Canvas. I've been very curious with that, with like benchmarks and school assessments, because then once that happens, when you go back to, like, when I just had one person, like, we've been playing around with it this summer, and so one person did that, and of course it's taken a little bit to get back to the screen. I was going to show you the next screenshot. The next screenshot says, sorry, it's still coming up. The next screenshot says this test is linked to the Canvas assignment, and it gives the assignment and must be taken through Canvas. So my concern, I know she sent me an email today saying that they're saying that it was, that you could do this on more than one Canvas assignment, but now this, when I go back to my test one, it says it gives me the exact assignment. So I'm just a little concerned that that's not going to work. Like if we put like school-wide stuff and each teacher tries to take their own copy to put it in their own assignment for Canvas, how that exactly going to work.
So I believe you're going to have to use blueprinting in order to make that work, right? So you add the assignment in your blueprint course.
But these aren't blueprint courses. We don't want to go there.
You don't want to do blueprint? Okay. Well, so
no, I mean these are just regular, regular courses.
I'll interject.
Yeah.
I sent you a note this morning, Lisa, because I had product and development confirm that you can do what you just did. Check that, allow educators to link the test to Canvas. Then they can link it to their own assignment, and it should not lock out everyone else.
So I would assume then when I go back to the test, it'll show me all the different assignments that the test has been linked to.
I didn't have
like this
question, and I don't have a test environment, so I don't know, but I can go back and ask that. You want to know if you as a leader can see all of the assignments, but you can't see that.
I don't care to.
Well, I think
I don't care to see
right? You would see the data. It would come in as through your reporting, right? You'd be able to see that so and so 3 sections took it. I think that's how you would see the data. And you would have to give the passcode.
Yeah, none of that concerns me. It's the concern is when I look at the test now, it tells me that it was linked to this assignment in Canvas, and it's got to be taken through Canvas. So I know before the issue was, so the first question is, so will the more than one assignment, Joan's saying it will, so I need to go get somebody else to try to do it in their assignment and see if it now shows up on that test page, on my opening test page, that it's linked to different assignments. That's okay. So then this is telling me if one person does it in Schoolnet, then in Canvas, then everybody has to do it.
Yes, but that's you'll have to make a copy. Yeah. So you'll have to have two. So like from a district perspective, if you're making a district benchmark and some people want to use it in Canvas, then you're going to have to make two copies.
Yeah, that never changed, and that's what I was trying to get around to. That doesn't work. So okay.
Yeah, your reporting will be separate when you do that.
Yeah,
so I get that. But you're right. It's all or none. You've either got to have it linked to an assignment,
right?
Well, and now that we're pushing Canvas for everybody, and this could be something that we eventually get to that way, if this assignment feature works the way that we think it's going to work. If everybody could then go in, because if I could say, okay, this is benchmarks ready, here's how you add it to your assignment, and the kids will do it right. That's exactly, we would love to get there, but that just means we just need to know up front that the assignment feature works for their individual courses, and then that everybody, it's an all or nothing thing. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. That is the thing with Canvas. So once you link that Schoolnet assessment to a Canvas course, it can only be taken in Canvas, right? So that's why you were getting that error message.
Well, that's what I thought, that little, allowing teachers. So it seemed like it's a choice, to allow them to it or not to do it, anyway, we're getting there.
And so, James, I don't know if you want to jump in with yours. So James put in the chat, multitasking. So we'll all have to take through Canvas or do separate tests if it's a mix face-to-face and online. Yes, so that is true. So you, if maybe I have, like in my district, I'm going to have kids come in 2 days a week, and then the rest of the time they're online. You know, I'm going to have to think about, do I want to direct my kids when they're even face-to-face in the room with me if they're going to need to take that test to go through Canvas, if I want to link it to Canvas. Because that is a point that I won't be able to do both the Schoolnet interface and Canvas interface on the same test. So yeah, thinking in terms of district benchmarks, you know, it's probably not a bad idea if you're using Canvas to get kids in the habit of going to Canvas, even if they're sitting in your classroom face-to-face, just for that continuality of they know they're doing the same things in the classroom that they're doing at home when they are home for whatever days or weeks, however your public school unit has it structured. Another thought is you could just put a page in your Canvas course that says, at this point, go to Schoolnet, and here's the passcode for the district assessment. So that's another way of you're putting that test information in Canvas, but then they're going over to Schoolnet and still opening it in like a separate tab of their browser. So that's another option if you don't want to go whole hog. For Lisa's point, like as you're saying, you're going to get there. But for right now, it might just be a better idea to put a page in your course that has the test information on it. Other good thoughts? Anything that you want to ask of us or the team? Anything that we can do to support you before back to school gets started?
Thank you for the videos. I definitely will probably be incorporating them. Maybe not in the very first rollout of PD stuff, but in the second rollout, as our goal is to, like, you know, slowly release stuff. We're rolling out teams. You know, we got a lot of new changes. So those refreshers, and I'll definitely get these webinars put in our PD opportunities for people to be able to take. I know last year I had several teachers that utilized those, so thank you for having those at different times, continuing that. But everything looks great. I'm excited to share the changes. I had already heard some stuff about math sets coming, and so to know that I can go ahead and share all of this stuff too. So that's great. Thank you.
I too want to thank you guys for answering all of my questions throughout this training, as well as I'll be looking at stuff around my K2 teachers building out portfolios and having that and learning about the portfolios and workspaces. So thank you again.
Yeah, and Ryan, I did a webinar last year called Schoolnet for Littles, where I had some good, I didn't talk about workspaces in particular, but I just talked about some good ideas for littles. So that might be something we're sharing too.
Perfect. I'll go ahead and look for it. Thank you.
And I just want to say a quick shout out and thanks to Schoolnet for listening and making those changes. Sometimes it's the little things that make the biggest difference for teachers. So we just are really appreciative.
Well, keep those cards and letters coming. We'll keep feeding them back.
I certainly do miss the face-to-face visits, but at least this way we get a little bit of conversation
I did like yesterday the Padlet activity with nieces. I'm unfortunately having to venture into some of that. And so with the PD stuff. And so, as we go through the year, I do like that activity we used to do where we put our questions and some things, but that was a great way to kind of get a conversation going as well. But, right now we don't have any issues going on, but I'm sure we will as we move our meetings forward.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll definitely be looking as, this was kind of our back to school getting started. So we have like a lot of updates and things to share with y'all. But in the future, it's definitely going to be more interactive with what your questions and things are as we move into this new phase of planned kind of blended and remote learning. So we would love for you to give us some feedback, and that's great to note too in there. Lisa, about the day, please make sure you give us feedback so that way we can make sure the next sessions continue to meet your needs. We'll be back in September for our next round of meetups. Right, and thank you to Joan and Catherine for always sharing with us and keeping us on track of what's coming and taking things back. I think it speaks great to, to North Carolina about, Pearson and their flexibility and listening to us. And then also, just making sure we have the best assessment products possible for our students.
Thanks, Pam.
All right, well, I'll hang out on the call for a few more minutes in case there's any other questions, but otherwise I know what a busy day everyone has, and we hope to see you soon. If I don't see you later in the week for another home-based meetup, I will see you